Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Caravan of Garbage, where this week we take a trip back in time and also internationally.
Yeah, and into another dimension, probably?
Probably another dimension, because we are, of course, talking about...
Spider-Man.
But not just any Spider-Man.
But it's called Spider-Man, isn't it?
It's called Spider-Man. It's called Japanese Spider-Man in the West.
That's right.
Officially. Leave a like if you could, because this show...
Bonkers.
It's absolutely... insane.
Or whatever the Japanese term for bonkers is.
Yeah. It's probably still bonkers, I reckon. It's one of those words that translates directly.
It'd be in katakana, though, the alphabet.
I hear exactly what you're saying. I do want to talk about the creation of this show and how it came to be.
Okay, great.
It's a fascinating tale because people might not know this. They might not know that they can leave a like on a video, but guess what? You can. But they might also not know.
They might not know that this exists at all. Because it only really... was released in Japan, and then it was buried for various rights reasons.
Yep.
It never got a DVD release until like...
It was officially released in 2009, but of course it came out in 1978, just after that Spider-Man telly movie, which we maybe looked at some of that series at some point.
Yeah, we did. The
Night of the Clones.
The Clone Saga, the TV Clone Saga. And this has very similar vibes. It's got that like late 70s fashion.
Yep.
It's got a relentless like waka waka guitar soundtrack, which I loved.
Boy,
I was
does
a
it.
big fan of it. But this is way sillier, and it sort of embraces sort of more Japanese superpower traditions.
Absolutely, yeah. And the things that were big and hot and huge at the time.
And I think it even sort of pioneered a couple of things that were big and hot.
It totally does, and we'll talk about that. So Gene Pelk, who was an American producer who was working with Marvel, he lived over in Japan with his wife, and he got together with Toro Hirayama and Susumu Yoshikawa, and they created this whole series with the Japanese audience in mind. I apologize for how I pronounce things. And by that I mean they pretty much throw everything in the bin outside of the costume and his powers.
Yeah. As I understand it, Toei Productions and Marvel, they came to an agreement that for a few years, they just had carte blanche to use each other's characters however they wanted.
Yep.
So Marvel produced Shogun Warriors, which is a sort of a giant robot comic series.
I believe Gene Pelk was also involved in some of that also.
There you go.
Yeah.
And I think the Japanese production team originally were like, let's make a story about an ancient warrior who is projected into modern times, and then Spider-Man can be his sidekick. And it's just Peter Parker Spider-Man. But then they were like, why would we waste the license like this? If we can use Spider-Man, let's make Spider-Man. Let's make a Spider-Man series. And that's what they did. But they, like you said, they just evidently threw everything out and gave him Ghost Rider's origin. Did you notice that? He's a motorcycle daredevil, and his dad dies, and then a mysterious stranger shows up and is like, do you want some themed powers? Here you go, you've got them. And it's like, all right.
Revenge? Absolutely.
Yeah, I'll have some revenge, thank you. Yes, please. Don't mind a bit of revenge.
So when they actually took the pilot back to Marvel in the US, and so there's a group of executives sitting around the table along with Stan Lee.
Oh, I bet Stan Lee's loving it.
Well, they showed the group, and they're like, this sucks. What have you've been in Japan for too long. This is absolute insanity.
Gene, what were you thinking, Gene?
But Stanley...
You've gone native, Gene.
But apparently...
You've become the Colonel Kurtz of Marvel Entertainment. This has gone too far. We're sending Martin Sheen in to kill you, Gene.
But apparently Stanley loved it. And he was like, look, it's camp for adults. Kids will love it. This is terrific, genuinely.
You can sell some toys.
You can sell some toys. And everyone else in the boardroom was like, yeah, no, we agree with that, actually. That's true. But then also Marvel said, this will not leave Japan.
Oh, I see, sure, yeah.
This stays on that island. And again, wasn't officially released until 2009. Now, they do a lot of things here in terms of stunt work, which I think is impressive, especially considering the budget, because most of this is shot in a quarry. We watched the first 3 episodes.
They all end in a quarry. Or they all end... Look, and you know... These are, like you said, they're camp, bit of ironic fun for adults, big time fun for kids, but some formulas need to apply. Like this sort of stuff, resulted eventually in stuff like the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. And they all end the exact the same way.
Yep.
The Spider-Man fights a monster.
Yep.
Then the monster gets really big.
Yep.
And he's like, well, I can't fight a big monster because I'm little. So then he gets in his GP7 spider machine, his little race car.
Which leads him to the Marveler.
It can fly into a big spaceship called the Marveler. that he got from his friend Garia, who is from the Spider Planet, Planet Spider.
Planet Spider, yep.
And then he goes into...
well, his friend Garia came to Earth 400 years before to fight Professor Monster, but ended up falling into a cave.
Yeah.
So he stayed there for 400 years until the next Spider-Man came along.
And then this Spider-Man, he showed up in the cave, and Garia injected him with some spider blood and gave him the spider powers. But anyway, then Spider-Man, he gets into the Marveler in his GP7 Spider Machine.
Yep.
And then Marveler turns into Leopardon.
Yes.
Who's a leopard. He's a leopard robot man.
Yeah.
And et cetera, and then he blasts the monster with some missiles, and then Leopardon produces various weapons, including a big sword.
Yep.
And then he kills the monster, and it's always the same.
And then
as far as we know, I mean, we only watched 3
No,
episodes.
that is essentially it. There is an ongoing storyline, and it does resolve at the end where he does kill Professor Monster.
Thank God.
Spoiler alert. But yeah, this pioneered a few things, and first of which being that it transforms.
Yes.
Like, we'd seen big robots before in Japan, and as a result of that, the toys sold like insanely well. Because they're like, action figures here, it's not enough. You need like a bigger thing. And you mentioned Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. So this is apparently the first series in Japan to have a superhero as opposed to a costume pilot ride a giant robot. And then the success of this led directly into the Super Sentai series, which then became Power Rangers when it was repurposed for the West.
There you go,
So
yeah.
this is directly responsible for Power Rangers.
Makes a lot of sense. And obviously, Spider-Man does spend a lot of time fighting the Iron Cross army.
Yes.
These little sort of grey men, and they've got sort of little chicken beaks.
Yep.
And they are, very similar to putties.
100%,
From
yeah.
Seinfeld. Just an army of putties from Seinfeld. Don't know why he's got a leopard head. This Leopardon man.
Why is any of this anything?
There's just sort of there's sort of some vague web decals on it
Yeah.
to be like, but was this originally intended for a different series? And maybe they...
I think
just,
they- I
and
think
they're
they
like,
just-
should we remodel and give it a spider head? No.
No, I think they would just put a robot in it.
Maybe like lion heads and leopard heads appeal more to kids or something like that
Absolutely.
than the horrible, ugly spiders.
So what I love about Garia, his mentor, is that he dies and promptly turns into a spider.
Yes.
And then that spider gives him advice. But then in episode 2, the spider dies.
That's correct, yes. Never to be seen again, I would imagine.
Yeah, I think also we would be remiss if we didn't talk about Shinji Todo. Again, I'm sorry for my pronunciation.
Who plays Takuya, who is
Yeah.
Japanese Spider-Man, or in his country, regular Spider-Man.
He's wonderful. Yeah. He's so great. So there is actually a short documentary on Disney Plus, which you can watch about this, and a lot of this he is interviewed, and he's just so happy to be involved in it and still talk about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and he loved that. Stan Lee loved it. He was really excited by that, and I just think he brings a lot of energy and heart to this, and also absolute revenge and madness, because his famous line from this is when somebody says to him, "Who are you?" He says, "I'm an emissary from hell." You know, that classic Spider-Man line.
Yeah.
And that is very Ghost Rider, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's right, I'm from hell. Get ready to be punched.
And there's, in terms of, maybe it's a mistranslation, but both the opening and ending themes, the
my
lyrics
God.
are true insanity.
Yeah.
The ending theme features lines including echoing in depths of darkness, the footsteps of hell. Under a grave marker lies my father. I hide in my heart my callous fate. Goodbye, my friend, my eternal friend. All alone, I run through the deserted lands. Which...
The Quarry.
The Quarry, where all the action takes place. I don't know. That does feel like the very depths of Peter Parker's despair.
Sure, yeah.
That kind of that vibe.
Not gussied up with any of this work and rent and friends.
Yes,
It's
exactly.
all that.
Oh, speaking of, what I enjoyed about this is that because in this series, Spider-Man's civilian identity, he is a motorcycle daredevil.
Yeah.
He doesn't have time to get pictures of Spider-Man, so he has a girlfriend
Yeah.
named Hitomi, and she is a freelance photographer
Yep.
who wants to get a sort of a prize-winning photo and really make her career, which I enjoy because it's sort of like Gwen Stacy or Mary Jane, but with something to do. As
Well,
opposed to just being, I'm dancing at the disco.
Yeah, and I guess she's also J. Jonah Jameson in a
True.
way. Yeah.
There is a moment.
They have some fun interactions.
Yeah, there is a moment in I think the third episode we watched where she's like, Takuya, on the news there was a monster. The monster was threatening the city. And he's like, that's crazy. You're crazy. What do you? You got spider powers from an alien guy in a cave, and he brought you a little car and a little... You've already fought 2 giant monsters. You've had 2 episodes of this. What's wrong with you?
You talk to a spider. To be fair, every time the spider shows up, he's like, a spider talking to me? Yes, it's the spider that's talking to you. I like also, because I just want to quickly talk about the budget again. When they fall into that cave, it's just like grey sheets. Just draped over some boxes. So they actually shot for this 2 episodes a week.
Wow.
That's the pace that they did this at. And you probably notice they also reuse a lot of scenes and recycle the same footage like 3 times in a row often.
If Spider-Man's maybe swinging on his web or his spider string, he'll swing and then it's just the same shot and the same shot again.
Yeah, it's not good. It's not a good inclusion. I do not like that. But, to be fair, there's a lot of practical swinging around and a lot of practical climbing.
And a lot of scuttling. I think we mentioned this when
He's got a particular run, doesn't he?
When we talked about the Nicholas Hammond Spider-Man at Night of the Clones, I think I probably said something like, it's good to see Spider-Man scuttle about.
Perfect.
I bet Tom Holland has a clause in his contract that says he will never scuttle about.
You'll strut.
Yeah, he'll strut. But
you'll strut and you'll slide and you'll dance, but you will not.
Gotta scuttle in between the shadows.
Yeah.
Real creepy like a real spider.
Yeah, very intentional. So a lot of this was also done by a stunt performer or stunt performers. So what they had to do for the opening shot of this, and you see this in the opening credits, you'll see he's up like 30 meters high on Tokyo Tower, and they were just like, just climb that, I reckon. Can I have a rope? No. We're filming 2 of these a week. You cannot have a rope.
Couldn't we just build like one of those, like the 1960s Batman? Could we just build a building on the side and I can just walk across it? Nah, it's not in the budget. But you climbing that building is in the budget, so go and do that if you wouldn't mind.
Speaking of budget, did you notice the bit, I think it was episode 1, where he tries to web. He's got all the Spider-Man abilities, and they're in a big wristwatch, I guess. Suit
it has
shoots
Spider-Man
out of
on it. It says Spider-Man written on it. He's got all the skills. At one point, he's like, the Iron Cross Army. They're 50 kilometers away.
Incredible.
And then he just I cannot imagine how long it would take to swing across a 50 kilometers of city.
At that pace.
Yeah, oh my goodness. 3 days later.
So he webs the monster and then it just picks him up and just fucking wrecking balls him into the side of a mountain, and it's clearly just a toy. It's so great. I do want to talk about Leopardon as well. Leopardon? Leopardon. So,
or Leopardon, I guess, depending on where you're from.
You may have noticed this, but this giant machine, it rarely appears in the same scenes as the monsters. It does earlier on.
Okay.
But what actually happens...
I cannot wait for whatever this is.
So it ends up being like they launch projectiles at each other. He throws the sword, always.
But very rarely in the same shot. You're right.
Later on, sometimes he's not in it at all. And this is because it had like massive structural problems. Okay. And the suit was difficult for the stuntmen to move in. On top of that, it was much bigger than the monster suits. So it would tower over a lot of them. And what ended up happening is it was damaged and then lost. So in the later episodes, they just reuse footage where they're never in the same shot. And the robot turns up and then they just kind of stand and stare at each other and then shoot things, in
that quarry.
In that quarry that they're always in, it seems.
As we mentioned, Garia, his mentor, who becomes a spider and then dies.
Yep.
There is a flashback in the second episode where he first arrives.
I love it.
He first arrives on Earth 400 years ago. It's sort of feudal Japan, and there's some sort of period battle scenes with samurai and Japanese warriors and so on and so forth. But my favorite part of it is he just arrived with all his just all the equipment that modern day Spider-Man has. His Spider-Mobile still just has Spider Machine GP7 written on it in English, in 1970s Formula One fonts. I like that a lot.
I like also how he fell into the cave and it was just like, I'll just stay here, I reckon. You've got all the Spider-Man stuff. And he's like, I'm going to send the giant robot away. You'll need that. What are you doing? Wanted to live in a cave, this bloke.
Yeah, I think
And by
so.
cave, I mean a room covered in sheets. You want some trivia?
I'd love some trivia. Spider trivia?
In relation to this, yes.
Great, Japanese spider trivia.
You were even narrowing down what kind of trivia this is more so, Mason. So part of the deal that Marvel made with Toei was that they could adapt any of Marvel's characters, as mentioned. So an additional result of this was a series called Battle Fever J, which was an adaptation of Captain America. And if you've seen even a second of this...
He's not really in it.
It's
there's
not
even
close.
like one red, white, and blue character with a shield or anything.
No, it's just like 5 or 6 people. I don't know. It's essentially Power Rangers again, I guess, or proto Power Rangers. Because Spider-Man is a Marvel property, Toei was not allowed to rerun the series or use publicity stills of Spider-Man from the show without paying licensing fees to Marvel. There were exceptions to the things, though, that they created. So that's why we haven't really seen that much of it over the years. But they ended up still showing and selling a lot of the merch for everything else. So the robot, you can still sell the robot.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Yeah. And
maybe that's why he's got a leopard head.
Yeah. Non-spider related. So the popularity of this series, this is an interesting bit of trivia from IMDb, has likely led to Spider-Man becoming one of the most popular Marvel superheroes in Japan. While Marvel movies dominate in the global box office, in Japan they are huge domestic properties, right? So it says that like Spider-Man pretty much beats out everything else. These are the things that the Spider-Man movies are also behind in Japan. Star Wars, Jurassic Park, Harry Potter, Back to the Future, Pirates of the Caribbean, Lord of the Rings, Toy Story, The Matrix, Alice in Wonderland, The Da Vinci Code, Terminator, plus Deep Impact and Armageddon. Those things are all more popular than the Spider-Man movies. The highest...
because of that Armageddon anime that they produced in Japan in the 70s.
Oh, was that what it was?
Yep.
Was Bruce Willis in it?
Yep.
Great!
Straight off Moonlighting.
Oh,
Or before, I don't know.
sure.
This isn't real, this thing that I'm saying.
Nah, it's
So
not a real thing.
Doesn't matter.
There's no continuity required. It's a joke, everybody.
Yeah,
Calm
that's
down.
right.
So the most successful Spider-Man movie is Spider-Man 2002, which came in at number 68 in terms of the 100 most popular movies. So
I mean, that is the 100 most popular movies ever. That's
yeah,
still pretty high.
I
up
agree,
there.
but it's like there are bigger movies, is what I'm
That's
saying.
very true, yeah.
Mason. Also, they decided to go with Motorcycle Guy because of Kamen Rider. So they were like, motorcycles? Yeah.
Nice,
we
great.
Think so. We think so.
Great. Let's steal some off the set. They won't miss them.
So interestingly enough, as we begin to wrap things up, so this version of Spider-Man actually appeared in the 2015 comic book storyline Spider-Verse.
Oh, yeah, he did, yeah.
He's popped up a few other times as well, so it features multiple versions of Spider-Man from alternate universes and does include his classic robot, leopard-headed Japanese robot. Also,
that's right. Yeah, that's looking good because it can move.
Yeah, it can move.
It actually has a bigger range of motion.
Do all sorts of things.
Because the budget is unlided.
Exactly.
The comic book.
You can literally draw anything and it costs basically nothing.
Costs nothing. It's a fun little joke we do at the expense of
hardworking artists.
Illustrators and artists. Yeah.
Hardworking and underpaid, quite
That's right.
frankly. But people might be excited for this, and I know you are. So the upcoming Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, parts 1 and 2.
Yeah.
Somewhere in that,
He's going to be in it. Yeah.
Japanese Spider-Man is going to appear.
Voiced by Shinji Todo.
I fucking hope so. You have to, right?
If I remember correctly, Lord.
Yeah.
Phil Lord of Lord and Miller, I believe, asked on Twitter, would you put him in the new Spider-Verse? And he said if this movie makes $200 million, we'll do it.
Yeah.
And it did. So
Excellent.
Right?
I love it. Check it out, man. It's good. I mean, is it?
This series.
It's entertaining.
Yeah, it was all up on YouTube briefly. Marvel put it up.
Yeah,
I
it
think.
was. They released a bunch of it. But, it is available.
But now we've got clips of this.
That's right.
Until it gets taken down, maybe.
Toei Animation do that, apparently. They're not a fan of any of this. It would seem. But listen, maybe you're a fan of this. Maybe you're like, man, I love clicking on a video called Caravan of Garbage, and I'm like, oh, I'm going to get angry about this because this is my favorite property. And then you're like, wait a minute, they're saying good things about this. What is this series even about? What? It's whatever.
We don't know anymore. We don't know.
Look, there's Spider-Man movies and we've already done all the Spider-Man movies. So we have to just dig around for other stuff at this point, all right?
That's right.
Yeah.
You want us to buy some Spider-Man action figure play sets and smack them into each other? We'll do it.
You want us to watch one of those weird Spider-Man Elsa, but Spider-Man's pregnant YouTube videos for kids or whatever that are very weird and shouldn't be online? Have you seen any of those?
I'm aware of them.
You'll kill yourself. Don't look at them.
Oh, no.
Anyways, here's a hint towards what we're doing next week.
Whoa.
Hang on!
The Animatrix.
And if you want to see that early, you can actually head over to bigsandwich.co. It is basically our Patreon, our private Patreon. There's also bonus podcasts. There's an early version of our podcast, The Weekly Planet, where we talk movies and comics and TV shows. It normally comes out Monday, comes out Sunday. They're ad-free. We do movie commentaries. We do a comic book club. It is all literally happening all of the time there.
That's right.
Yeah.
There's so much content.
There's a huge
You love
back
content?
catalogue. Yeah.
Heaps of it.
Yeah.
Stacks.
Your favorite content will be there.
That's right.
Anyways, thanks for watching this. Thank you to Ben and Lawrence for the wonderful edit. And let's all go about our days.
Love it.
Me too.
In the dark valleys between buildings, Spider-Man. His eyes flashing anger, Spider-Man. He abandons peace, he abandons all, and races through the sky chasing evil. Why do you continue to fight, risking your life earnestly, invincible man, Spider-Man?
Not invincible.
No.
I thought that was really touching when his dad died. Apparently, he drew on personal experience for that.
Oh.
I thought it was quite good. He's very good. Anyways, thanks everybody.
Spider-Man.
Spider-Man.